They burned children alive and called it worship. In the valley of Hinnom, in the Tophet of Carthage, flames roared inside the bronze idol of Moloch, arms outstretched, mouth open like furnace. Drums thundered to drown the screams. Priests chanted while the crowd watched, believing innocence traded for harvest, for victory, for survival. The altar blazed and humanity obeyed. But what if the ritual never ended? What if Moloch did not die with the ashes buried in urns? What if he survived not as a statue of bronze, but as an idea, a system, a law written into the bones of civilization? Look closely at the world around you. Armies devouring the youth of nations, corporations grinding lives into profit, schools draining spirit for obedience, governments demanding sacrifice in the name of security. The fire still burns, only hidden behind new masks. Moloch was never just a god. He was a machine of hunger. He was the embodiment of every system that demands the innocent for the sake of the powerful, every altar where the weak are consumed so the strong may endure. He is not in the past, he is in the present. So ask yourself, when you give your time, your youth, your children to the grinding wheels of progress, when you watch innocence consumed and call it necessary, you're not still standing before Moloch's furnace, listening to the drums that drown the screams? Evil does not thrive in chaos. It thrives in architecture. Moloch was not a wild god, roaring in forests, feeding on chance. He was enthroned in system, a machine of devotion and death, a structure meticulously arranged so that sacrifice became law. To understand Moloch is not to imagine isolated madness, but to glimpse the altar as blueprint. Altar, priests, kings, drums, and crowd, each a cog in infernal machine. Picture Carthage, stone walls shimmering under Mediterranean sun. Outside the city, the Tophet stands sacred enclosure, furnace built of bronze. At its center looms Moloch, idol with gaping mouth, arms stretched wide. Beneath the idol, fire roars, stoked by priests in crimson robes. Before him, rows of urns already filled with ashes of the young. Around them, crowd gathers. Drums and horns thunder to drown the cries. Kings and magistrates preside, ensuring ritual order. This is not frenzy, this is choreography. Every role defined, every motion encoded. The architecture is functional. The idol is designed with hollow body channels that carry flames to arms, ensuring victims burn swiftly. The drums are positioned to echo, masking sound of agony. The priests chant hymns to sanctify, reframing horror as holiness. The rulers declare sacrifice necessary for city's survival. The people watch, persuaded that blood buys harvest, victory, favor. Every detail enforces contract. Every element reinforces altar. But this architecture is not unique to Carthage. This pattern repeated across civilizations. In Canaan Valley of Hinnom, sacrifices burned in the same way. In Phoenicia, shrines echoed with same drums. In biblical texts, prophets thundered against passing children through fire to Moloch. The architecture replicated because system was efficient. By codifying horror as sacred duty, it made murder sustainable, repeatable, unquestionable. At heart of this architecture lies principle: sacrifice the most innocent, gain collective security. The youngest, the purest, the future itself, forward to furnace to ensure survival of present. This is Moloch's genius. To invert natural instinct to protect young, turning it into ritual of destruction. By convincing society that altar was holy, he turned nurture into slaughter, devotion into death. Sensory fragments make this clear. The bronze glowing red-hot, metal hissing as flesh sears. The beat of drums pounding chest, hypnotizing crowd. The acrid smoke curling upward, ash carried by wind across city. The silence after urns sealed, names forgotten. Architecture of evil is not abstract. It is sensory machine, grinding innocence into power. Dante glimpsed same architecture in his Inferno. He placed Moloch not as chaotic beast, but as structure, a furnace in which the damned were consumed endlessly. Milton invoked Moloch in Paradise Lost, describing him as horrid king, besmeared with blood of human sacrifice. Even modern poets like Ginsberg saw architecture. Moloch as a machine of industry, devouring generations. Each retelling recognizes same truth. Moloch is not figure but system, and system persists. The altar shifts forms. In war, Moloch is draft offices, battlefields consuming youth. In politics, he has policies demanding sacrifice of few for profit of few. In economics, he has endless labor draining vitality, trading innocence for survival. In culture, he has industries feeding on attention, childhood, purity, dreams. Wherever innocence is devoured to maintain system, Moloch presides. This is why prophets trembled, poets raged, visionaries warned. They recognized Moloch as more than idol of bronze. He is embodiment of architecture of evil. The logic that sacrifice of innocent is cost of progress. He does not need flames to burn. He burns through systems, rituals, contracts. His temple is city itself. His altar is every institution demanding blood for survival. His priests wear suits, his drums are media, his urns are graves hidden behind statistics. So ask yourself, how many altars stand today, disguised as schools, hospitals, offices, parliaments, screens? How many priests chant progress while innocence burns? How many drums thunder so you cannot hear the screams? The architecture of evil is alive. Moloch never died, he simply changed buildings. The fire still roars, the altar still waits. Every altar speaks in symbols. To those who stand outside, the flames and drums of Moloch appear as crude spectacle, primitive religion. But to those initiated, every element of the ritual was a word, a glyph, a code inscribed upon the human psyche. Moloch did not reign only through fire. He reigned through language of symbols, etched into flesh, seared into imagination, repeated until horror became holy. The fire was his first and oldest symbol. Fire consumes, fire purifies, fire transforms. In Moloch's furnace, it devoured children, but priests declared it transmuted them into offerings ascending to gods. Flames roared as translation of innocence into power, body into smoke, life into survival. Fire became alchemy of society, burning future to secure present. To this day, fire remains symbol of sacrifice, of destruction sanctified. Every torch carried in protest, every inferno of war echoes the flames of Moloch's altar. The drums were a second symbol, beating louder, faster, drowning out screams. Rhythm hypnotized, silenced conscience, rewrote horror into ritual. Drums spoke not to gods, but to people ensuring they believed, ensuring they obeyed. Their sound was language of repression, a cultural command. Do not hear, do not see, do not resist. Modern echoes persist. Advertising jingles, national anthems, chants of stadiums. Noise that drowns, rhythm that controls drums of Moloch never stopped. The bronze idol itself was symbol incarnate. Hollow, metallic, forged by hands of men, yet worshipped as more than statue. Its open mouth was furnace, its arms stretched to cradle and consume. Bronze gleamed with authority, indestructible, reflecting fire as divinity. Idol was mirror of system machine built by human hands, then feared as God. Even today, structures of steel and glass stand like modern idols, absorbing devotion, consuming offerings of time and blood. The urns filled with ashes were final symbol. Each small jar held remains of child, sealed and buried, cataloged into earth. They were silent archives of sacrifice, proof of devotion, receipts of covenant. Unearthed, centuries later, they still whisper. Ash does not lie. Ash remembers. Today, cemeteries of soldiers, graves of nameless laborers, statistics of the dead all are urns of Moloch. Its archive expands endlessly. These symbols spoke louder than any doctrine. They bypassed thought, entered directly into body and psyche. Flames ignited fear and awe. Drums silenced doubt. Idol embodied authority. Urns enshrined memory. Together, they created language of inevitability. This is sacred. This is law. This is the price you must pay. The ritual became grammar. Society spoke it fluently. Writers preserved these symbols. Milton wrote of Moloch besmeared with blood of human sacrifice, his voice echoing drums, his body gleaming bronze. Ginsberg's Howl reimagined Moloch as city of stone and steel, skyscrapers as idols, machines as furnaces. bureaucracy as altar. The imagery changed, but grammar remained. Moloch is fire of industry, drums of propaganda, bronze of skyscrapers, urns of wars. Sensory fragments reveal persistence. Flames erupting on battlefield, firestorm devouring cities, drums replaced by endless media noise, numbing conscience, bronze transformed into steel, towers absorbing lives daily, urns echoed in statistics, numbers hiding faces of lost. Da-da-da-da-da. The language endures because symbols still function. Occultists whisper. Symbols are contracts. To witness flame and call it holy is to consent. To let drums drown truth is to sign pact. To bow before idol is to surrender. To bury urns silently is to renew covenant. The only way to break spell is to read language differently. Fire not as sanctity but as devouring. Drums not as hymns but as silencing. Idol not as God but as machine. Urn not as sacred but as indictment. Symbols enslave until decoded. So ask yourself, how many fires have you sanctified? How many drums have you obeyed? How many idols of bronze, steel, or screen have you bowed before? How many urns have you buried in silence? Moloch speaks in symbols, and you have been fluent since birth. The question is not whether you understand his language. The question is whether you dare to read it aloud. Every system demands a price. The gods of harvest ask for grain, the gods of storm for incense, the gods of war for steel. But Moloch asks for blood, not symbolically, not metaphorically, but literally. His altar was fed with the bodies of children, the youngest and purest, their innocence turned to smoke. Bronze arms glowed red, fire devoured flesh, drums drowned screams, and priests declared, "This is the cost of survival." Blood was coin, innocence was currency. The architecture of Moloch thrived on this exchange. To burn the innocent was to believe you purchased favor, fertility, victory. Every jar of ash buried in Tophet was receipt of transaction. To give your child was to buy harvest. To give your future was to secure a present. The most horrific truth is not that people obeyed, but that they believed. Blood is old as currency because it is universal. It measures life itself. A drop given willingly can seal pact. A river spilled unwillingly can feed empires. For Moloch, the blood of children was perfect coin, pure, untainted, irreplaceable. What higher proof of devotion than to destroy your own future? The altar thrived not because kings demanded it, but because people internalized logic. Without sacrifice, we will perish. That belief gave furnace endless fuel. But Moloch did not vanish with Carthage's fall. He transformed. Blood as currency became metaphorical, but no less real. Modern systems do not place infants on bronze arms. They take youth into battlefields, into factories, into endless cycles of labor. Wars consume generations, turning bodies into statistics, graves into urns of modern Tophet. Corporations devour health, trading years of life for wages. Education drains vitality, crushing spirit for obedience. Even screens bleed time, the lifeblood of modern age, consumed hour by hour, until only ash of wasted years remains. Sensory fragments prove continuity. Soldiers' blood-soaking sand offered in name of security. The factory workers' lungs blackened, vitality traded for survival. The students' sleepless nights, youth bled into exams and debt. The parents' silence, watching dreams of children swallowed by system. These are modern sacrifices, offered without altar, yet no less sacred to machine. Blood flows unseen, currency exchanged daily. Dante knew this truth. His Inferno was filled with blood rivers of the violent wounds of traitors, endless torment paid in crimson coin. He wrote not of chaos, but economy. Every sin had price, every soul paid. Milton's Moloch, standing in council of hell, demanded open war, cost measured in blood. Ginsberg saw skyscrapers as furnaces, devouring youth, grinding innocence. Poets across centuries recognize same pattern: blood as economy of systems, Moloch as its treasurer. Occultists whisper paradox. Blood given unconsciously enslaves, blood given with awareness transforms. To spill life unwillingly is curse, to sacrifice consciously is initiation. The question is never whether you will bleed, you already do. The question is whether you choose how, whether you recognize altar. Moloch feeds on silence, on unawareness. But when blood is offered with meaning, it ceases to feed machine and becomes offering of transformation. So ask yourself, how much have you already paid? How many years traded for security? How many nights bled into exhaustion? How many dreams sacrificed for survival? How many urns of ash have you buried in silence, calling it necessity, progress, success? Moloch still demands blood. He no longer needs drums or bronze idols. He sits in systems, in contracts, in routines. The altar remains, the fire burns, and you are still paying, whether you know it or not. Moloch does not devour by force alone. He reigns through covenant. The altar is not merely furnace at his courtroom. Every sacrifice is contract signed, every scream clause written, every urn sealed proof of agreement. The parents who placed their children in bronze arms did not imagine they were coerced. They believed they had entered pact. We give, and Moloch grants. Their signatures were not ink, but silence. Their contracts were not parchment, but ash. The priests were not only executioners, they were lawyers of the divine, reciting terms aloud. The king was not only ruler, he was guarantor of pact, ensuring people upheld their end of covenant. The crowd was not only witness, they were co-signers, nodding, chanting, consenting. Together, society entered contract with system. Innocence traded for survival. Moloch's altar was a legal document written in flesh. This template never vanished. It only changed language. Today, contracts with Moloch are signed daily, unconsciously, with same logic. The soldier swears oath to defend nation, trading youth for battlefield. Pact promises honor, protection, freedom, aid. Hidden clause demands blood, trauma, grave. The worker signs employment, trading health for wage. Pact promises stability, progress, survival. Hidden clause demands years, exhaustion, life force. The student signs with debt and sleepless nights, trading youth for education. Pact promises future. Hidden clause demands present, even parent signs. Contract of silence. Watching child devoured by system, whispering. That's just how a world works. These contracts are not written in demonic script. They are written in laws, policies, advertisements, traditions. They do not demand bronze idol, only obedience. They do not call it sacrifice, only necessity. But the structure is identical. You give what is most precious. You receive promise. You pay hidden price. The altar persists in every clause. Sensory fragments reveal truth of pacts. The trembling hands signing enlistment form. The factory cart punched, clock ticking life away. The exhausted body at desk at 3 a.m. whispering I must. The silence of families who bury their dead as heroes, contracts fulfilled. These are rituals of covenant, binding humanity to Moloch's court. Dante's Inferno recognized law of contracts. The damned were punished not randomly, but by clauses they signed unconsciously. The wrathful bound to fight eternally because they chose rage. The greedy chained to endless weights because they hoarded. The traitors frozen because they broke covenant. Hell was not chaos. A sit was legal system. Contracts enforced by iron precision. Milton saw same. In Paradise Lost, Moloch advises open war. His contract plain. Blood for glory. Ginsberg's Howl screamed of Moloch as machine demanding oaths. Moloch whose mind is pure machinery. Moloch whose name is the mind. Their visions converge. Humanity trapped not by force, but by agreements it keeps signing. Cultists whisper paradox. Pact cannot be avoided. To live is to sign. Every choice is covenant, but pact can be conscious or unconscious. To sign blindly is slavery. To negotiate knowingly is initiation. If you recognize altar, you choose how you pay. If you see contract, you rewrite clause. Integration breaks unconscious covenant, transforming curse into path. So ask yourself, what contracts have you signed with Moloch already? How many hours traded without question? How many dreams abandoned in silence? How many oaths whispered as necessity? You may believe you are free, but altar holds receipts. Every sacrifice recorded. Every contract binding. The drums still thunder. not to summon gods, but to remind you. You agreed. The only path forward is not to refuse contracts altogether. They are inevitable, but to awaken to terms, to stop signing blindly, to see pact as choice, not destiny, to step into courtroom not as victim, but as sovereign. For until then, you remain client of Moloch, bound by pacts you never read, contracts enforced by your own silence. The genius of Moloch was never the fire, nor the drums, nor even the priests. His greatest power was inversion. To make horror appear holy, to make slaughter sound sacred, to twist the cries of children into hymns of devotion. What greater triumph than to convince a people that their own destruction was divine will? In ancient Carthage, priests declared sacrifice was duty, not cruelty. Parents were told, the more precious the offering, the more certain the blessing. To give child was ultimate devotion, ultimate proof of faith. The scream silenced not only by drums but by doctrine. The ritual was reframed as salvation. Inversion rewrote murder as mercy, atrocity as obedience. Those who doubted were branded imperious, traitors to city and gods. The altar became test of loyalty. To refuse was sin, to comply was righteousness. This inversion still echoes. Religion, politics, and culture continue to sanctify sacrifice. When young soldiers march to war, they are told death is honor, blood is patriotism, sacrifice is holy. When workers give decades to machines, they are told exhaustion is virtue, labor is devotion, survival is gift of system. When parents surrender children to grinding institutions, they are told conformity is sacred, obedience is salvation. The altar wears new names: progress, prosperity, national security, but logic remains. Innocence consumed, fire sanctified. Symbols of inversion surround us: flags draped on coffins, medals pinned to grieving parents. Politicians declaring wars necessary to preserve peace, advertisements celebrating burnout as success, universities branding debt and despair as noble price of education, hospitals normalizing suffering as unavoidable toll of progress. Every banner, every slogan, every euphemism is drumbeat of inversion, silencing truth beneath noise of sanctity. Dante saw inversion in hell itself. His damned were punished with sins disguised as devotion. Greed transformed into burden, pride into collapse, wrath into endless war. He recognized structure. Hell operates by inversion. Those who believed themselves righteous discovered they had worshipped fire disguised as light. Milton too saw Moloch as voice demanding war. His counsel framed as courage, his destruction sold as duty. Ginsberg screamed of Moloch as machine demanding sacrifice of minds, hearts, youthal inverted into necessity. Sensory fragments of inversion are chilling. The priest's chant declaring slaughter holy. The general's speech reframing death as honor. The advertisement praising exhaustion as achievement. The politician's oath disguising destruction as protection. Each phrase cloaks altar in light. Each word hides furnace in velvet. Inversion is not subtle, it is everywhere, constant, hypnotic. Occultists whisper, inversion is most dangerous spell. To call evil good and good evil is to blind entire civilization. Once altar is named holy, no one resists. Once fire is called sacred, no one flees. The people walk willingly into furnace, believing it's salvation. The spell binds not by chains, but by conviction. Breaking inversion requires sight. To name altar as altar, fire as devouring, sacrifice as atrocity, not holy. To see through words, strip banners, unveil drums. Only then can covenant be broken. Until then, inversion enslaves and Moloch feeds. So ask yourself, how many sacrifices have you accepted as necessary? How many deaths called patriotic? How many years called successful? How many sufferings called progress? How many altars cloaked in flags? How many furnaces hidden behind slogans? Moloch's power is not ancient. It is alive, sanctified daily by inverted moral code. And until you awaken, you will keep bowing before fire, believing it light. When people imagine rituals of Moloch, they picture the fire, the drums, the idol of bronze. They imagine ancient parents offering infants to arms of furnace. Imagine something barbaric, distant, unthinkable. They do not realize they perform same rituals every day. The altar never closed. The fire only changed shape, the drums still thunder, though you call them by new names. War is his first ritual. Armies marching, youth sacrificed, blood spilled not on bronze arms, but on battlefields. Politicians chant hymns of security, generals beat drums of patriotism, media drowns screams with slogans. The sacrifice of young for ambitions of old is still Moloch's liturgy. Every flag-draped coffin is urn in his modern Tophet. Work is his second ritual. Factories, offices, corporations demand offerings of life force. Workers give decades, health, families. They are told sacrifice is noble, exhaustion is devotion. The altar is not furnace but desk, assembly line, glowing screen. The drums are alarms, deadlines, metrics. Innocence devoured, vitality consumed, ashes buried in forgotten bodies. Education is his third ritual, children given to institutions. Hours of play exchanged for obedience, creativity consumed by tests. Curiosity crushed under weight of conformity. The altar is classroom, the idol is system, the drums are bells and schedules. Dreams burned, innocence sacrificed, future transmuted into obedience. Media is his fourth ritual. Screens devour attention, youth sacrificed on altar of endless scroll. Advertising drums, thunder, drowning silence. Innocence sold in fragments, eyes burned by light of artificial fire. Children fed into algorithm, fed back as consumers drained of spirit. The ritual repeats, invisible yet constant. Even leisure becomes ritual of sacrifice. Dictions engineered, sloth sanctified, hunger cultivated. Fast food devours health. Entertainment drains time. Consumption consumes consumer. Every wasted hour is offering. Every craving altar. Every indulgence drumbeat of Moloch. Sensory fragments reveal continuity. The alarm clock at dawn, summoning workers to altar. The anthem at stadium voices chanting wrath. The glow of screen at midnight, eyes hollow, body drained. The buzzing neon sign promising satisfaction, swarm of Beelzebub hidden in light. The child's sigh as dream dissolves into system. Each fragment is ritual. Each ritual is sacrifice. Dante glimpsed same repetition. His dam did not stop at death, they repeated sins eternally. As the wrathful fought forever, gluttons devoured endlessly, traitors froze without end. Hell was not chaos. It was ritual calcified into eternity. Modern world is no different. Rituals of Moloch repeat daily, unconscious, global. The altar now stands in cities, schools, markets, networks. Humanity kneels without knowing. Cultists whisper. Ritual is engine of reality. What you repeat, you sanctify. What you give attention to, you sacrifice to. To scroll endlessly is to pray to Moloch. To bleed hours into work without meaning is to worship him. To obey blindly is to chant his hymn. Ritual enslaves when unconscious, liberates when conscious. So ask yourself, what rituals did you perform today? Did you bow before altar of labor, give blood to system, surrender dreams to silence? Did you hear drums of media, chant slogans of leaders, scroll oceans of envy? You need not travel to Carthage to serve Moloch. You're officiating already. The only question is whether you recognize altar or remain priest in his temple, feeding fire every hour. Awakening begins not with rebellion, but with recognition. For centuries you were told Moloch was god of the past, an idol smashed by prophets, a horror buried in desert dust. But the fire still burns, the drums still thunder, the altar still waits. Moloch never died. He shed bronze skin and became something more enduring. A system, a logic, a law woven into bones of civilization. He is not statue, he is pattern. Look closely. Every time a child's laughter is silenced for productivity, Moloch smiles. Every time youth is bled on battlefield, he feeds. Every time innocence is traded for profit, he rises. Moloch is not hidden in temples. He is hidden in contracts and policies and economies. He lives wherever the weak are sacrificed to feed machine of the strong. He is not myth. He is operating system. To awaken is to see altar everywhere. Schoolroom bell ringing like ancient drum, the office clock ticking like heartbeat of sacrifice. The advertisement flashing like fire of bronze furnace, the graveyards of soldiers mirroring urns of Carthage. Moloch thrives not in shadows but in plain sight, his temple disguised as world itself. Dante hinted at this in Inferno. His damned did not escape their rituals, they repeated them eternally, sacrifices unending. Milton placed Moloch in council of hell, not as beast, but as voice of law, urging open war. Ginsberg screamed of Moloch as a machine, devouring generations with steel jaws, demanding youth, sanity, innocence. Across ages, visionaries saw truth. Moloch is not idol of past, but system of present. But awakening does not end at recognition, demands refusal. The prophets of old condemned Tophet, not only with words, but with defiance. They named fire profane. They called altar abomination. Awakening is naming. They look at school that drains spirit and say, this is not education, this is altar. To see labor that devours life and say, this is not progress, this is sacrifice. To call war not necessity, but worship of Moloch. To strip masks of sacred from slaughter, sensory fragments of awakening blaze fierce. Standing before glowing screen, you hear drums beneath music. Watching flag-draped coffin, you see urn of Carthage. Feeling exhaustion of endless work, you smell smoke of furnace, awareness tears veil. Suddenly you cannot unsee. Altar is everywhere. Silence is complicity, cultists whisper. Moloch cannot be slain by sword. He dies only when unfed. His fire extinguishes when offerings cease. His drums fall silent when no one chants. His altar collapses when no one kneels. The only true rebellion is starvation. Refuse to sacrifice innocence. Refuse to feed machine with unexamined blood. Refuse the fire. This is not easy. To resist is to step outside system, to be branded traitor, heretic, fool. Just as ancients who refused altar were exiled, modern refusers are mocked, crushed, silenced. But awakening spreads like spark. One voice becomes many, one refusal cracks wall, one act of defiance starves idol. Moloch thrives on conformity, dies on consciousness. So ask yourself, will you keep feeding fire? Will you keep obeying drums? Or will you awaken, see altar for what it is, and refuse? The prophets warned, the poets screamed, the visionaries wept. Moloch never died. He waits in every decision, every contract, every silence. Awakening is not escape, it is confrontation. It's cold. And only by refusing altar can humanity hope to break machine and reclaim its soul. The fire still burns, the drums still thunder, and the altar still waits. Moloch is not past, he is present, demanding silence, demanding sacrifice. Will you keep feeding him, or will you refuse the fire? Comment your thoughts, subscribe, and prepare. The black sun rises next.